Hello, book connectors. Welcome back to the Book Connection. I am your host, Blue-Eyed Black Devil. Thanks for joining me. This time I am here with another feature about the author, and I am featuring writer or novelist Shirley Jackson. Okay, so it's been quite a while since I have done an about the author, so please forgive me if I seem to be all over the place at once. But if you are not familiar with Shirley Jackson, I was introduced to her, I think I was in the 10th grade, in English. It was American literature, I believe it was, but we were required to read a short story called The Lottery. And I had to read it again when I was in college. I think I was in the last semester of my sophomore year or the first of my junior year. I don't remember, but I do remember thinking, like I've said before, when I had to reread The Scarlet Letter, had I known I was going to have to read those works in college, I would have paid more attention to them when I was in high school. But for me, The Lottery did not really require much for me to remember this story. So, like I just said, I've had to read it twice, and both times it was required reading. But I walked away, although I can remember about The Scarlet Letter. I know what it was about, and I can still remember certain characters' names and all of that good stuff. The Lottery stuck with me, I think, because of the subject matter. And I'm not sure, but I believe it was back in the mid to late 1980s, early 90s. I do believe Lifetime made a movie, and it was an adaptation of her book, The Lottery. And so, and it bothered me so much when I read it both times, and then for some unknown reason, I just decided to watch the movie. And I was like, now, this one just about had to stay on point with the story, because otherwise, I mean, it's almost as if they had just added one more sentence or left one sentence out, you would just be up in arms, because no, it had to go this way. I just don't understand how she made that up, how she made it up. But anyway, I didn't mean to go all off on the book or the short story. I'll do a little bit more about that later. It's not very much known about Miss Jackson. I can tell you that Shirley Hardy Jackson was born on December 14th, 1916 in Sacramento, California, to parents Leslie Jackson and Geraldine Jackson. Now, Shirley had a brother 2 years younger than she was, and his name was Barry. Now, Shirley and her mother had a strained relationship. Her mother, it is said that she was beautiful, just drop dead gorgeous. Shirley, on the other hand, was not so gorgeous. It wasn't that she was just downright butt ugly. It's just that her mother supposedly was so pretty that anyone would look plain standing next to the mother. The mother was also into social activities, and Shirley was more so into reading. She wasn't like the straight A student, although she could have been. The only thing she ever really got out of going to school was reading and writing. And back then, I'm not exactly sure if libraries were plentiful. And another thing about her parents, now, Shirley's mother, Geraldine, came from money. Her father, grandfather, and great and possibly even second great grandfather, they were all a family of architects. So Geraldine had, some money when she married her husband, Leslie. Now, Geraldine's mother, Shirley's grandmother, Shirley and her grandmother, who they called Mimi, they were pretty close. And she got along with, well, pretty much everybody but her mom, and they didn't have a downright horrible relationship. They just did not see the same on certain things, where Shirley was more into written words and the mom was more into whatever gala she was planning to attend, and ball gowns and things of that nature. But Shirley was not asked out on many dates. For a while, people thought that she was a lesbian. That's just how seldom she was ever seen out and about with a man. And if she did have a date, it was just that one date, and it would be months or years sometimes in between the dates. But along the way, she met and befriended several girls, and there was never anything sexual between them, other than the fact that they were both women. And she goes on, and okay, like I said, her family, they were just odd. This is on her mom's side. And I just said that she came from a family of architects, but Geraldine's mother, they called her, well, Shirley and her brother anyway, called their grandmother Mimi. Mimi also practiced witchcraft. And so when I found that out, I was like, okay, so now that's making the lottery make a little bit more sense. And she disguised the witchcraft as it being that she studied Christian Science. That was how she came up with whatever it was she did and things. And so then when Mimi passed away, Geraldine told Shirley that she passed away from Christian Science. I don't understand it, but anyway, that is what happened. But Shirley and Mimi were pretty close as time goes on. So she eventually goes to school in Syracuse, New York. She went to college, the University of Syracuse, I believe. I do know that she did graduate, but this is also where she met the man who would become her husband. His name was Stanley Edgar Hyman. And he, like her father, didn't come from money either. But he was loud, he was brash, but he was also very intelligent. And he was Jewish. And so Shirley knew that her family would not be too proud of her for bringing a man like Stanley home to meet. And he also knew that his family would treat him the same way if he had bought Shirley. So they just remained dating and stuff. And over time, their families did meet. They, meaning Shirley and Stanley, got married in 1940, and they had 4 children together. Now, I don't know the birth and or death dates of any of the children. It didn't say. All I know is the oldest one was born. It was a son. His name is Lawrence. And he was born in either 1944 or 45. That was the only one they gave a date to with regard to a birth. Okay, speaking of that, let me backtrack for a minute. I know I told you all at the beginning of the story that Shirley and her mother were estranged. Didn't necessarily say what the majority of it was, but what really, I think, sealed the fate between the both of them is that Geraldine got pregnant shortly after she married Leslie. They did not say she got pregnant on her wedding night, but it would not be a surprise if that's when it happened. But it is said that she kept saying that she didn't mind having children. She just wanted some time with her husband before she had to consider getting pregnant and raising children. So then she made no secret about Barry being her favorite child. I can just only imagine what an awkward position that put Barry in trying to explain their mother to Shirley. Shoot, trying to explain his mother to everybody. Okay, I just wanted to go ahead and get that out because I forgot all of that when I was talking about her growing up. But yes, she and her husband ended up having 4 children. It's also said that although she was, because she had begun writing, well, she'd always written, but now she's starting to get some notice or notoriety. She's getting little whispers. She knows that her works are being discussed and things. And so her husband also majored in journalism, but he became the one that handled all of her business affairs, and he was a critic. So he would critique her works and stuff. And then her most famous short story is The Lottery. But she's also known for writing 6 novels. And for whatever reason, neither of her novels ever came up in school, period. I have not read either one of them. Her most famous one is a book called The Haunting of Hill House. That was like, it did very well. And I think this is when she has started being known as or referred to as the master of horror. Now, later on, she also writes a novel, and this time it is called We Have Always Lived in Castles. And that is the book that is considered to be her masterpiece, other than The Lottery. So I think I have the Haunting of Hill House on my reading list. I'm going to see if I can find We Have Always Lived in Castles, because I do like horror. She was also known as like the master of horror and psychological horror. Yeah, the master of psychological horror. And so I'll see if I can find it. And if I can, I don't know if we'll ever get to it, but I'll have it when I do. I think I've said before, I don't mind horror, but I like stuff that isn't physically or visibly seen, or if it is, it was hidden in plain sight. That's the kind of stuff I like to read about. So, well, when it comes to horror, that is. But anyway, The Lottery was first published in 1948. But on a personal note, Shirley started to indulge in things that aren't necessarily healthy. She developed some vices. I mean, she was addicted to amphetamines and then alcohol, and she would do psychedelic drugs from time to time, and all of this not only affected her work, it also affected her body, and she ended up with asthma. She was a heavy smoker, and she would drink alcohol. She just had a lot going on, and she ended up passing away. Doggone it, a day before my birthday. She died 1 year, 1 day before I was born. She died on August 8th, 1965, at the age of only 48 years old. Now, back in 1965, I imagine some people felt like 48 was a long life. But, all this time later, 61 years later, in my case, I know that 48 is not really an old age. And so that means, I'm just now thinking out loud, guys, but that means if she was 48 when she died, that means that her youngest child was probably no more than 9 or 10, possibly 11. Like I said, it didn't give any birth dates for anyone but her oldest one, and I don't even know if he's still living. But yeah, she passed away in 1965, and her works have gone on and surpassed, obviously, her in her life, and her family is still reaping whatever benefits comes from that. I didn't even see what year her husband passed away. He may still be living because he was born. Some of the things said that she was born in 1916, but then some said 1919. Now, the ones that said 1919 said that she chose that year so it would make her husband seem to be about the same age, because he was born in 1919. I don't know. Make it make sense. I can't. Okay, now, before I go, let's talk a little bit more about the lottery. If you have not read or seen anything on this, trigger alert, I'm just going to tell you what I remember, what I know. So you may want to go ahead and close out of this one. If you are, if the lottery is a required reading, please do not use this video as some form of cliff notes. You have to be the one to do the work. I had to do mine, you got to do yours. But otherwise, this is what I remember about the lottery. Number one, it had nothing to do with the lottery that we know about, where, you select numbers and you take your chance. You probably won't win, but oh well, you won't win if you don't enter, right? That's not what this was, in a sense. These people, the lottery is set in small town America. And it was just like any other random small town. People would gather, they worked, they worshiped, they played, they did everything together. It was just one big community of people. But once a year, and I think it happened in the summertime, because from what I can remember of the movie. Okay, I was wrong. The story takes place in the spring of the year. So the small town, everybody has to go to the picnic. It wasn't an option. You had to be there, right? So you get there, everybody's speaking, exchanging pleasantries. The ladies are setting the table with all of the food that everyone has prepared and bought to the picnic, or I don't know what that gathering really was, but everybody bought something, and the men, most of them had on like short sleeves, so it must have been a warm day. And they had on dresses, and the children were playing, and everything's just like a, run of the mill picnic. But after the meal has been served, everybody gathers around. I have to say, like the proverbial town square, so to speak. But everyone is there, and they all must gather around as a name is drawn from a hat. Once whoever draws a name with a black ink blot or like a black circle, that means that person must be deleted, which is why everyone in the town had to attend the picnic. Everyone had to delete this person. They stoned them into deletion. Everyone had to do it so that no one person could walk around with the guilt of knowing that he or she is the reason that someone is no longer amongst the townspeople. How horrible that must have been to see your husband, wife, child, sibling, parent, at this point even best friend. You not only had to witness them getting deleted, but you had to participate. So this lady's name was drawn, and her teenage daughter starts to cry. She was like, let's do it over again, let's do it again. But eventually her mom she grabbed a hold of her, and she was like, let's just get it over with, okay? Please tell me you're gonna be okay or whatever. So the girl, against her better judgment, she went on and took her place. And for the first 3 or 4 throws, although the lady was hit, she didn't fall. But somewhere between the 4th and 5th stone, she did collapse. But I mean, she stood there, and she took, like I said, the first 3 or 4. Once she fell, the whole town's group of people, they just all bum rushed her. She was already on the ground. I guess they figured they could get it over with. And that's what happened. She lost her life. And the only comfort I guess you could take from that is knowing that she had helped delete people before it was her turn. That is weird, and I'm not understanding right to this day how she came to the conclusions that she reached for the telling of this short story. I think the short story itself is like 9 pages long. But I remember when the movie went off, I think my sister, Sweet Pea, I think that's the one that watched it. And she just got up. She like, nah, it's just stupid. I said, it's creepy. She said, now what was the point in that? Why you got to kill people? I'm like, girl, I don't know, but I know that to me, the movie was not so much for the Easter or the Memorial Day, whatever the holiday was closely around the time that this took place. Okay, even like in today's time, a lot of people say that Christmas has been overly commercialized. And I agree. But as long as I know the true meaning of Christmas, I'm all right with giving and or receiving gifts, because most of the people who do that pretty much know. But it's always all of these shopping days and Black Fridays and all of that. that were not there, or at least when I was a little girl. You just mainly were in church. You had your Christmas programs and plays at schools and churches, and you sat around home, you sang Christmas songs and hot chocolates and parades and all of that stuff. Well, I think that the whole point of the lottery was to show how people have forgotten the true reason for whatever the season is that is being celebrated. Now, if I'm right, and it was in the spring of the year, the only two holidays I can think of right off the top of my head is either, well, I forgot about Mother's Day, but it could have been Mother's Day, Easter, could have been Memorial Day, anywhere along that way. But at some point, the reason for the holiday is lost. And now it's all about the tradition being carried out. So even if you know you're there, you use the picnic as a guise for getting everyone to come out to the picnic, but then the main reason you need them out there is to continue a tradition that should never have been started. I'll never be okay with just for spite offing people that you very well have just gone to church with the week before or that week. You work with them, you may lay beside them in bed at night, or under the roof with someone who, quiet as it's kept, you may be part of the reason that person no longer is here. Anyway, that was really, really, really creepy. And that was just a short story. I am in the process of reading one of her memoirs called Private Demons. I think that's the name of it. And I'm not even halfway through, but if I finish the book and I can find some things out that, like, I haven't gotten yet to when her children were born, or if they were living when she passed away, Shirley, that is. I don't know, but if I find out some more, there will be a part two to this about the author. But as for now, this is going to conclude about the author, Miss Shirley Jackson. Subscribers, I'm not exactly sure what YouTube is up to. Again, now it let one other person subscribe to the channel, but this is going to be my third or fourth video where I got very little, if any, response. I noticed yesterday, which was Sunday, August 16th, 2026, not one single solitary question was submitted. So maybe everybody just took a day off. I don't know. But I am still at it because I know eventually, I guess, they'll start letting my videos go through again. But in the meantime, please, please, please know that I thank you so very much for subscribing to the channel. And visitors, I thank you as well for at least viewing the channel. Everyone, please check to see if you are still subscribed. And if not, you can reach me at The Book Connection or under Blue Eyed Black Devil. Either one, you will see me. And feel free to subscribe or resubscribe. Everyone, please do not forget to like, share, comment respectfully. Make sure your notification bells are not only on, but set to all, so you'll know every time I drop another gem on you. And in the meantime, book connectors, remember this. As long as there are books around, there is always something to read. And until we read and or connect again, please be safe out there. Be careful. Enjoy yourselves. Enjoy each other. Enjoy your afternoon, night, or day. Let me just say thanks for watching and or listening. And God bless.